There's a brand new TV spot for Jurassic World Rebirth, and it may have included our very first character death. Now obviously, spoilers reside within this video. This is your last chance to click away before the spoiler monster comes and eats your teeth. Oh no! If you want to watch the TV spot yourself in full, I will link it in the description of this video. So the new TV spot contains a bunch of new clips for the Quetzalcoatlus and the Mutadon. We're going to focus on the former first. The Dino gang are trying to get Quetzalcoatlus DNA and are therefore scaling the cliffside to get at its nest. So far so good. This man here is Leclerc. We don't know much about him. He's acted by Becky Sylvain, and he looks to be one of the mercenaries that Krebs brings along on the trip. Now, if there's one thing basically every film ever made has told us, is that these men exist to be killed, so we can see people being eaten without having to kill off a main cast character. And it looks like that might just be coming true. In these new clips, we see the Quetz up close as it attacks Leclerc on the cliffside. That gigantic, thick beak looks like the kind of sword that the Slayer would use to murder demons. We can see Krebs and Kincaid at the top of the cliff, pulling him up to safety whilst he's being attacked, but in the very next shot, the Quetz is up there with them at the top of the cliff, and the two men are falling backwards from the edge. The quality is really low, but this is another fantastic look at the full scale and design of the Quetz, which really does have an incredibly aggressively designed beak. I really like the position of its wings here, propelling itself upwards towards Krebs and Kincaid, but what you might also notice at the very start of this sequence is the rope hanging from its mouth. It's only visible at the very start of the scene, but it is there, and I rather strongly suspect that Leclerc may be at the other end of that rope, i.e. inside the Quetz. You can see the Quetz doesn't really open its beak fully here at all whilst it's shrieking at the men. This also potentially, if true, gives us a little bit of a timeline for Rebirth. Leclerc is not in much of the trailer, he certainly isn't in the Mosasaurus scene later on, or the Mutadon scene later on, but we do see him navigating the swamp and looking up at the Titanosaurus. So that would put the Quetz scene, you'd imagine, about halfway through the film. It's before the Mosasaurus, but it's after the Titanosaurus and the swamp. The other new scenes are for the Mutadon. They're in the tunnels, another set of scenes we've seen quite a few times now, without knowing for sure what's attacking them. I've been saying it's the Mutadons, but now we have confirmation. But the Mutadons are once again doing the bat thing, attacking from the ceiling, even clinging. You can just about make it out onto this grate above with their claws, just like a bat would do. Then they chase Kincaid and everyone else out of the tunnels, and he has a dramatic escape facilitated by Zora using this very Jurassic Park feeling gate panel. We've had a lot of good looks at the Mutadons by now, so there's not a ton to say about them here, but I do really like their running animation. How inherently awkward it is. You can see it starts to run bipedally a little bit more towards the end. It's leaning less far forward. To me, it almost looks like it has to sort of build up momentum with a quadrupedal gait until it's fast enough to sort of sustain itself on two legs. That's not dissimilar actually to how we think some hadrosaurs would have had to move. Now that's about it for the TV spot. It's quite short, there's not too much new, but there's actually quite a lot that's been happening over the last few days. So we're going to dig into a few other things, a few toy lines, adverts and stuff like that. More spoilers incoming, so again, if you want to keep your teeth, this is your second last chance to click away. Now, Mattel recently posted a new advert on their YouTube channel, which, whilst not in outright spoiler territory, has sort of hinted towards the climactic battle of Jurassic World Rebirth. Before I go into this, it's worth noting that A, toy lines are notoriously unreliable when it comes to reality, and B, this advert is very silly. What these grown men felt like bashing dinosaurs against each other, I don't know. But either way, it features a Spinosaurus and a D-Rex battling each other for supremacy of Isla San Juan. I really don't want to keep pronouncing that with an attempt at correct pronunciation. Can I call it Isla San Hubert? Now, not only has this been rumoured to be the final fight for a long time, but earlier this week we had yet more confirmation from a Target toy listing that the Spinosaurus is the quote-unquote hero dinosaur for the film. Shared on Reddit by Def Song Gamer, this almost certainly confirms that this is the dinosaur that battles the D-Rex at the end of the film. The question really is, how many of them? I don't think all three Spinosauruses are going to survive until the very end. But will two survive? Will it require one final heroic effort? And probably an aquatic landscape for the Spino to emerge victorious. We do see Kincaid luring the D-Rex through the water with a flare. Is he luring the D-Rex towards the Spinosaurus in a Jurassic World finale-esque moment? As it happens, in the Mattel advert, the Spinosaurus loses. I just thought it was interesting they've decided to reenact what we suspected to be the final battle for a long time now, before the film even airs. Maybe the hero dinosaur will lose. They won't, but maybe they will. And the D-Rex will destroy the island, the world, and the known universe. That big, bulbous head contains immense power. Refusing to make a joke about my penis. Speaking of toys, we got our very first glimpse at the Minis pack by Mattel for Jurassic World Rebirth yesterday. Shared by Flying Raptor Mutadon and Collect Jurassic. Now, not every dinosaur here is going to appear in Rebirth. We've got things like the Gallimimus, the Pyroraptor, the Dimetrodon, both from Dominion of course, that have no rumours at all about an appearance. But it is yet another appearance of the Triceratops, and we'll be talking more about that one in a second. And weirdly enough, maybe one of our very best looks yet at the visual differences between two of the Spinosaurus 3. As I say, only two of them are present here, but you can see they've got different basal skin colours, we've got different sail colours, we've got entirely different patternings. This sort of dimorphism makes a lot of sense. It's something I wish more of the dinosaurs had throughout the series, but it particularly makes sense for these strange looking Spinosaurs, which must stand as individuals, and to an extent be representative of the sort of the mad experimental genetic science that's been going on this island. They wouldn't get it perfect, they wouldn't get it the same every time. Now, I mentioned Triceratops, another dinosaur we've only seen hints of so far in merch. But backing it up having a film appearance is its appearance as an official render on this Hot Wheels toy packaging, found by John's Jurassic Journeys and shared by the Pro C YouTube channel, who you should check out. He's really good for like first finds and stuff like that. Now, you might recognise this trike. It's the same render as Jurassic World, but modified. But that is also true for the Raptor render amongst others, and is pretty standard for the franchise at this point. As for the trike itself, it's brown. It has a more prominent beak now, thanks to the change in coloration. I don't want to look too much into the render design, given it is a shifted world design, but I suspect the trike looks fairly similar in Rebirth to the Jurassic World iteration, just a change in coloration. And that to me is a little bit of a shame. Triceratops is my favourite dinosaur, and it's one that I think could maybe do with a new lease of life nowadays, a slightly updated design. Alright, nearly done. There's been a lot of merch lately. Now, Pro C, I mentioned earlier, found more of the Captivz cards lately, and again, I don't want to look into these too much because they often invent scenes and do their own thing, but there's some really interesting things going on here. In particular, in this Velociraptor card. At the bottom right, you can see that Rebirth male Velociraptor, but the raptor in the middle is just straight up the female Velo from Jurassic Park 3, and that supports her appearance in a lot of the toy stuff we've already seen. To boot though, the environment that they're in is interesting. It sort of looks like a helicopter tilted onto its side, perhaps hanging from a tree. And of course, we've seen the in-film scene with Krebs looking up at a helicopter crash and the dangling Hildebrand-esque corpse. Did the helicopter crash land in the trees and have its passengers essentially become a fresh, boxed meal for these velociraptors? We know the Velos aren't going to be in the film much, and I suspect we may not see this happening, and what's happening here is Captivz is kind of just filling in a blank for us somewhat. It's going to be interesting to look for any hints of this, at least, in the final film. We've also got a new Compy card that shows them playing around in the skull of a Hadrosaurid. Edmontosaurus, Maiasaura, both were rumoured for the film, possibly as a CGI overlay for the Parasaurcorpus we've seen a lot of. But I would lean Edmontosaurus given that elongated nasal cavity. I still don't think Edmontosaurus is in the film, but if there is an alive Hadrosaur and it's not the Parasaurolophus, then I think it probably at this point will be the Edmontosaurus. Finally, another card showcases the much rumoured Pteranodon. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the ones from Jurassic World with that keratin sheath covering much of the face, but the crest is elongated here and it's got blue coloration that calls into mind the Pteranodon from the end of The Lost World. These could be those same Pteranodons from Jurassic World, with the red short crested variants being female and these longer crested ones being male, since that is real world sexual dimorphism that Pteranodons had. Now, whilst a lot of dinosaurs on this island were obviously created here or transported here, there's actually no reason the Pteranodons couldn't simply have migrated here of their own free will in search of warmer, more appropriate climes. Okay, phew, I think that's all the important stuff. The film is now just over 5 weeks away. It's really zooming by, and whilst we've got more info in the past few weeks, I still think there's quite a lot of mystery to be unravelled about this one. Now, I personally don't really care about spoilers. If you're this deep into the video, you probably feel the same way. But I do like that there's a lot about the timeline and the island itself we still don't really know. Do you think Leclerc is dead? How would you feel about the Jurassic Park 3 female raptor returning in her original glory? Sound off in the comment section down below, throw me a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you lovely folks very, very soon. Thanks for joining me, cheers much love as always, bye bye.